pleasure to welcome you on board Majestic Princess. Second visit to Sydney today. This ship, without question, the biggest, most spectacular, newest Princess ship ever to call Australia home. So we are really pleased to see her here. I hope some of you got the opportunity to see the dramatic footage of her arrival into Sydney, 12 days ago. I think over the years the events team have done some incredible things to welcome ships into Sydney Harbour, but floating runway is certainly something that we have never seen before. And in fact, I think we ended up getting more media coverage from that event than any other piece of Princess activity we've done before. So hopefully that leads to some good inquiry for the rest of the season and for next year, because of course Majestic, we'd already announced earlier this year that she'll be back for another summer season. We've completed, as I said, 2 cruises now, the repositioning voyage down from China and the first voyage out to Fiji, and I think the feedback has been great, the metrics have all been positive, so we're really hopeful that the season is going to be a really good one. But we're not here to talk about Majestic Princess today. We're here to talk about our 2020 World Cruise announcement. And I'm going to throw it out there that I think the announcement and the launch day for the Princess World Cruise has probably become one of the most anticipated booking days in the cruise industry, maybe even one of the most anticipated booking days for any travel product in Australia. To some of us in the office, it's probably more exciting than Christmas Day nowadays, because when you've got a revenue management team sitting there at 9 o'clock and then just watching the bookings ticking in, it's like an incredible feeling, because you just don't see anything like that for any other cruise that we sell. I mean, last year's launch day was the biggest booking day we've ever had for the whole of Carnival Australia, and given that Carnival Australia is about 70% of the cruise market, then it would certainly have been the biggest cruise booking day in the history of Australia. So incredible moments, and we really can't achieve that without the contribution that all of our travel partners make in generating the interest from their guests to pre-register and to be ready to book on the day. And I'd like to give you my kind of personal thanks for helping to make these launches the record successes that they seem to be year after year. Since our first world voyage, well, the Circle Pacific voyage in 2008, Princess remains the only cruise line to offer world cruises round trip from Australia and New Zealand. I think lots of other cruise lines claim to have world cruises from Australia, but if you don't start and end in Australia, in our mind, it isn't a proper round world cruise. And I think that's really what makes this Princess program so unique, and why we've just had this incredible following. Now today we've got a couple of speakers. Oh, I've forgotten to get my slides. Oh, there's Majestic arriving 12 days ago. We've got a couple of speakers. So first, on the right-hand side, infinitely more glamorous than Nick and I, is Crystal Morgan. So she is the Director of Deployment Planning for us at Princess Cruises, and she's going to be joining us live and direct from her office in sunny Santa Clarita. And Crystal's someone I've worked very closely with over the years to develop the local deployments for Princess in this part of the world. But before we speak to Crystal, I'd like to introduce our Sales and Marketing Director, Nick Ferguson, to share with you the details of our 2020 program. Nick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. I've got the pleasure of announcing our 2020 winter program. And it's very exciting news as Princess is going to be increasing their capacity in 2020 by over 50% year on year. So it's very exciting. We've got 2 night voyages to 106 night voyages. But without further ado, I'm going to kick off with a video just to showcase some of the highlights for our 2020 program. So as you would have seen, we've got a fantastic World Cruise program lined up for 2020, starting with our signature round World Cruise, 106 nights round trips from Sydney, Brisbane and Auckland. Guests will have the opportunity to sail to 40 destinations across 27 countries, and you'll be able to sail from your doorstep in Australia right up to the top of the world to the Arctic Circle, where you'll be able to experience the midnight sun in Honnesvåg, Norway. A couple of other highlights, guests will be able to do 13 late night calls, including 4 overnights, and those overnights will be in Dubai, Venice, New York and Lima. We've also got our signature Circle Pacific, so it's actually our longest ever Circle Pacific cruise that we've ever done, 77 nights. You'll be able to sail round trip from Sydney and Brisbane, but for our New Zealand guests we'll be also offering a 73-night Sydney to Auckland departure. Our last Circle Pacific was back in 2017 on Golden Princess, so we're expecting this to be very popular. A couple of the other highlights, 35 destinations, opportunities to visit 12 countries, 11 late night calls including overnights in Vancouver and San Francisco. And a couple of key highlights is Alaska. You'll be able to experience Alaska more than ever before with 6 ports of call and 2 glacier experiences. And also same with Japan. You'll be able to discover Japan more than ever before with 5 ports of call, including Osaka and Tokyo. We've also got, including our world cruises, we've got 41 departures over this 2020 winter program. and they range from a variety of 2 night to 35 nights outside of our world cruises, with departures out of Sydney, Brisbane, Fremantle and Auckland. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of the other significant voyages that we've got in this program, starting with Hawaii, Tahiti and South Pacific voyage. 5 nights round trip from Sydney and Brisbane, and we've also got an Auckland sector available on that voyage. For those guests that want to discover Australia's coastline, we've got our Northern Explorer, 17 nights from Sydney to Perth. It goes over the top end of Australia and includes visits to Cairns, Darwin, Alotau and PNG. And that'll be on Sea Princess. And we've got 2 Australian Asia voyages. So these 2 voyages are 22 nights, and they actually coincide with the Japan Summer Olympics in 2020. So we've got the departure from Sydney on the 1st of July, and that arrives in the day before the opening ceremony in Japan. And then we've got the return departure on the 10th of August, which leaves the day after the opening ceremony. So 22 nights for those voyages, and they'll be on Sun Princess. Popular with our Western Australian guests, we've got our signature Treasures of Asia itinerary, and that sails 14 nights from Perth to Singapore, and includes visits to Bali and Thailand, and that'll be on Sea Princess. And not part of this winter program, but it's a voyage I wanted to bring to your attention because we've only just released this. It's a new Majestic Princess voyage. It went on sale last Friday, so it's already available out there now. It's a 10-night Majestic cruise from Singapore to Hong Kong and includes visits to Thailand and Vietnam, and that'll depart in March 2020. So in summary, our winter program, as I said, sees a 56% capacity increase for 2020 year on year, so lots of opportunities across our 2 ships, Sea and Sun Princess, with 36 different voyages with 41 departures in total. And then this will go on sale on the 9th of October to our elite guests for 1 day, starting at 9 AM Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And then on the 11th of October it'll go on sale, general sale to all guests from 9 AM as well. There's obviously a lot of details there, and we're going to leave you behind a mini brochure later this afternoon. But now I'm going to hand back to Stuart. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. So one of the things we wanted to do today was something a little bit different. So you may recall Jan Swartz spoke at, some of you may have come to one of our previous releases. Well, today we wanted to give you a bit of an insight into what goes into creating a world cruise itinerary, and generally what goes into creating a deployment per se. And so in a short moment we're going to cross to Crystal in Santa Clarita. I just wanted to share a couple of Crystal's many achievements. So Crystal, and also something else. So Crystal's birthday is tomorrow. So technically that's today in Australia. So when she comes up on screen, please join me in wishing her a happy birthday. Yeah, Crystal probably has the best job in the company because her job is to decide where our 18 ships are deployed 365 days of the year. Crystal was front and center of the expansion of Princess Cruises into Asia, particularly Japan, and I think that's a destination that has become hugely popular in North America as well as here in Australia. And Crystal's good work over the years has contributed to the many deployment and itinerary awards that Princess have won, including, for a record, I think 12 years straight now, the best cruise line for itineraries by Recommend magazine. Now, I twisted her arm to join us today, so we'll cross to her now because I know she needs to get home and feed the dog shortly. So there she is, Crystal. Can you see us?
I can. Hi, everyone.
I'm going to move over here because it seems weird for me to be talking to you standing behind me. So I don't know who you can see, but I'm going to sit down over here in the corner. But I've got a couple of questions that we wanted to throw to you today.
Great.
So clearly, as you know, the World Cruise is always very special for us. I want to know what makes the 2020 program different.
Well, first off, I wanted to say hello to everyone from California, and thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you with the beauty of technology. It's such a joy to be here. I think that in answer to your question, Stuart, every year we try to think about what new destinations that we can offer different from previous years. We try to find an opportunity to really hero a different part of the world, and this year in 2020's program is no different. We really work closely with yourselves and the Australia team to bring the best collection of destinations for each of our program releases. We've designed 2 spectacular world cruises that tick all the boxes for all the Aussies and Kiwis. And these itineraries have been curated both based on demand and also feedback from our guests and our travel partners, and in particular for destinations like Japan, Alaska, and Northern Europe. And as we said, we work hand in hand with the Australia team to really ensure that we're over-delivering with each of these destinations and each of these voyages. For the 2020 World Cruise, what we're highlighting for this program is really those ports above the Arctic Circle. And these are destinations that you think that when are you really going to ever get to these very remote, beautiful, small, charming villages above the Arctic Circle. So the 2020 World Cruise will sail from Sydney through Southeast Asia, through the Mediterranean, and the key highlight's going to be visiting the northernmost point of the European continent in the port of Honningsvåg, Norway, which is the tip of the North Cape. And this is an opportunity to see some of these off the beaten path destinations in the area as well, like the Lofoten Islands, Tromsø. There's several ports in Iceland that we're including, and one of them is a very small destination called Ísafjörður, which many cruise lines visit during the summer months, but it's an opportunity on a world cruise to see these kind of destinations. In addition, on the world cruise, we like to combine some of the big destinations like New York and Rome and Dubai, some of those places we know we're going to deliver, and weave in some of these remote, off the beaten path places that are really iconic destinations like Komodo Island, Easter Island, places like Cartagena, Colombia, which is a really beautiful city, also a UNESCO heritage site. And then for the Circle Pacific, the 77-night cruise is longer, as we said, and it's an opportunity for us to feature more Japan ports and more of the West Coast, in particular Alaska, because that's a destination that really over-delivers time and time again. The previous Circle Pacific cruises, we've gotten great feedback about the West Coast destinations, so we've really tried to maximize that routing, including overnights in Vancouver, late stays in Seattle, San Francisco, and San Diego as well. And it's just the late nights are really very special as well, because you can either choose to stay out, our guests can choose to stay out in the port and in the evening at all destinations, but it also gives the flexibility to kind of come back to the ship whenever they feel like, which that really kind of lends to that full immersion experience.
Thank you. Now, ordinarily we wouldn't have an opportunity to talk with this audience about really what goes into planning a program like this. So how long does it take? How do you come up with the itineraries and so forth? Can you give us a bit of insight into the planning process?
Yeah, sure. So I like to think of my job, and as Stuart said, I do think I've got the best job in the company. But what we think about is really where is the fleet going to be in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time. So we have new build vessels coming out, our newest one, you're on our newest one, and then we have another one coming out in 2019, and then beyond that as well. So I like to think of it as we think from the very long term down to the detail of each itinerary, down to exactly what time we arrive in every port of call. So for example, in Auckland, whether we arrive at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that has an impact on the entire passenger guest experience. And so we really look at that kind of detail. We also try to consider on-trend and best destinations where to take our guests to. We combine these destinations to what we think is going to be a balanced, amazing experience of big-name destinations and off-the-beaten-path places. And with Australia being the biggest market outside of North America, we work closely with the Australian team to make sure that we're delivering some of the best itineraries for our Australian guests.
So when did you start actually planning this itinerary for 2020?
Oh wow, how long ago was it? Like a year ago?
Yeah.
So typically a voyage like this would probably be about 8 months in our planning process. And because we're always thinking of where we can take guests to where they haven't before, we're always looking at the past passenger repeat rates, taking the feedback, what can we do to generate great reviews and great feedback. And so I think what I'm excited about for 2020, all that planning has taken place in order for us to create an itinerary that we really feel is going to deliver, and it's going to over-deliver in the expectations. I mean, just imagine there's not many people in the world that can say that they sailed 14,000 nautical miles from Sydney from one hemisphere to the other to touch that very northernmost tip of Europe and then sail all the way back. So I think it's a real cool thing to do. The other thing I wanted to add is that in our experience with these world cruises, we work closely with many of the destinations, and I have to say that they love Australian and Kiwi passengers. They love it when the world cruise passes through. So it's a real positive message for the communities as well.
Yes, I think when we go to Cobbin Island, they do something special for us every year, don't they?
Yeah, in fact, we schedule Coven Island in the southern coast of Ireland. They basically call it Australia Day, and they know when the ship is coming in, and they put a big party on for everyone, and it's just a really special experience to have that kind of partnership.
All right, fun question now. So tell us something that's surprising about your job.
That's a great question. So what I always find surprising is that I'm not sure people realize that we have to plan these ships to be somewhere every day or 365 days a year, every year. So we have 18 ships and they don't stop. So, once one voyage is over, the next one has to start. And so a lot of our time is spent trying to make sure that we have all the right voyage and the right port and the right day for 18 ships across the world, and keeping all of that moving forward and all of that linked. It's not like an airplane where they can, have the airplane maybe pause for a minute before it goes on the next rotation. So, I think of it that way. Every ship has to be somewhere 365 days a year, all year long, 18 ships.
So Princess has 5 new ships in 6 years, I think, from 2019. So it sounds like if we in this room wanted one of those new ships to be launched in Australia, you'd be the person to make it happen.
Well, actually, you guys are the ones who make it happen, because if you keep the sales high and the revenues high, then that's even more incentive for us to bringing the new ships down your region.
All right, you heard it here first. No pressure. All right, thank you very much, Crystal, for joining us. Very much appreciated.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Happy birthday.